Here we go. Uh-oh, Art Daddy's got a new microphone. All right, so we've learned from our previous lesson, and now we're making all kinds of new mistakes. Too loud. Take two. It's your boo. Your Art Daddy, and he's got a new microphone. It's a shittier. It's not any better than the microphone I already had before, but I have a new one. So what we have here today is Billy learned a new set of skills, but he doesn't know why he's doing them. He just knows that if he doesn't, he'll get in trouble. So we're using the right colors for our sketches, and that's about it. I like that you have your reference material. This is what we're going to refer to. This is what we're trying to get to. But also, what we're not doing is referencing our reference material. We're also doing things because we were told to, but we don't know why we're doing it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to explain what we got going on here. If we're going to refer to this as our reference material, if you're going to have reference, use the reference. If you're using it as the idea, this is kind of the rule of thumb where you actually stick your thumb out and see how far something is based on the distances on your hand, and then you can put it on your piece of paper. You just want to make sure that everything is where it's supposed to be, so that this doesn't compound on you later on. And why can't I reset? Clear my guides. There we go. Bloop. Also, I just want to say you are setting yourself up for failure by trying to draw something you may not understand. What am I trying to say about this? There is gear here, there are elbow pads, there are uniform that are not really giving you a true idea of where things are, because if you've never worn this equipment, then you don't know, and you're guessing, and you're basically doing what an AI does. It doesn't actually know how to wear these items, and it doesn't, but it's seen enough pictures that you can get an idea, right? So like here's the shoulder, and what could screw you up is thinking that this is all his arm, but the fact is it's probably right here. And you have all this vest and everything. Why do you hate me? Why do you hate me? Come on, go away. No, no, no. Thank you. Brush. Right? And again, we're just trying to. And then you have an elbow pad here, which is also ruining. Is that the elbow pad? That is the elbow pad. See, like even I, who has worn this equipment my entire life, um, is screwing up with the placement. So like the elbow pad is ruining things. And then he probably has shoulder plates and everything else on it. So like his shoulder is here, and then traps and everything up into the neck. And then his head itself, his jawline is probably here. So like this guy is way smaller than the armor is. And if you don't know that, then what ends up happening is exactly what you have here, where you are using what little information that picture is giving you as your reference material. Also, what I just did here, this is a smart thing to do. There's no reason why you can't blow this up if you're tracing, and tracing it. There's an evil word here, but There's nothing wrong with tracing. And then we're going to go down and split this guy's face. Why are we going to do this? Because we need to know what it's supposed to look like when we put it on ours. You know, we want to put that cross line on the bridge of his nose. And look at this. Look there. Oh my goodness. It's like his ear is right where it's supposed to go. And that's where his jawline is. And then his head. Yes. Yes. It all works. Anyhow, yeah, there's nothing wrong with doing this ahead of time so that when you do come over here, you can at least have more information than what you first started off with. Because now that we see the two things, we're getting distracted. Well, we can see that things are unlike the other. So how can we fix this? How can we fix this? Well, it's simple. We just get rid of it. Blah. That's not fair. That's not fair at all. So we're going to get a whole new layer. And since you used green, I can't use that green. I got to try to pick a different green. So we're going to go a little darker green so we don't get too ate up into this. Yes, I am using a Wacom, and no, I am not a mouse. So, basics. This is what I keep trying to come back to. We have our reference. We know what we want to draw. Obviously, I'm going off of what reference you have. I would pick, right, let's just go with what you have. So we got our head, and we have a neck off the back of our head. Now, why are we doing certain things? Wherever you define the shoulders, we are going to do our box. All right, and we're going to do our box in perspective. That way we understand what's going on. So we got our chest box, and then we're going to have our abdomen box. And we're going to center line this box. This is where the neck goes. And this is the center of the body. And it's going to go all the way down. And all of these things affect everything else. So we're going to put another circle here because it exists. We're going to look at our reference material. And we're going to go, okay, so actually elbow looks like it was here. Great. Bing. And you know what? That hand isn't too far off from where it's supposed to be. And I'm not even going to make any judgment calls on that. You're not far off. Congratulations. Elbow. You know what? Pretty good. Hand is in the right place. Elbow is right in the general right place. Probably a little more up and down in the picture, but you know what? Not horrible. Great. Why are we doing these things? That's the important part. So notice how I haven't done the gun. The gun, yes, the individual is around the gun, but the gun doesn't dictate where the character is. The character is carrying the gun. Although everybody wants to focus on the gun, the character is the one carrying the gun. So the gun goes in the hands of the character, not the other way around. All right. If you end up trying to make an inanimate object the like say you have a motorcycle and the character is on the motorcycle, if the motorcycle is the character, the thing that you are focusing on, and the naked lady and or man on top of the motorcycle is tertiary or secondary to what you are actually trying to draw, fine. But in the end, even though the gun may be the focal point, men's like penis gun, strong, it is the character holding the gun. So until that changes, gun is secondary. You're still going to want to block it out separately, but character is always first. Don't get locked in on these circles. All right, I want to show you something. So we trap ourselves with the circle. I like the fact that you didn't do a circle. You did some sort of an oval. And that's not a bad thing. You can go crazy especially if you're going to want to get into characters. If you notice, most furries all tend to look the same. Why is that? Because they all generally have the same formula. All right? And we can change that formula. No one else does because, money sells, but you don't have to be restricted to that formula. You can totally have yourself, ow, a merry little Christmas. You can totally do this oval, all right? Because then that character has a really long face. Maybe he's a horse. Not that I would do a horse this way unless he was looking right at me, but that's, notice my sketching is just garbage right now. Okay, you can do a long face. Wherever you're going to put your eye line, that's fine. But I want you to know why you're doing things. These eye lines that I brought up earlier, these define the whole face. These are the guidelines that one will use to determine the entire structure of the head. You're not just putting these here because I yelled at you last time to do it. Yes, these are the maximums for your emotion lines, but they also set up the whole face. These are also not cement, okay? You can have these extend outside of your head box, and you're going to just be like, what the heck? Why do we do that? Well, because this line, yes, dictates where the ear goes, but it is also your cheek line. So again, when you do characters, all of this determines that character that you're drawing. And yes, this person doesn't necessarily have to have huge eyes to fit in the space, but it still does, in fact, define where everything goes. So play with this as long as you understand that these are just guidelines that then define the rest of the character. I don't want you to just do a thing because I said it was a thing that you do. And once you get good enough, and I have yet to get rid of it, you know, you may stop doing it because it becomes a crutch. And here I am, 43 years of life, crutching. Okay? So like if we wanted to do an orangutan, if that's what your character dictates that you're trying to do, depending on the broadness of the nose that you are doing, dictates the separation of your triangle, and the width of the face, or wherever you want those cheekbones to be, is usually where the point goes to. What does this point now do for us? It, it gives us our cheek line. And again, I'm going in one direction, but you can go the other way. Maybe he has jowls, all right? But those jowls are coming from these lines. Your nose line is always defined by where that halfway point is on this line. Your eyebrows stay within the emotion line. Is he angry? Right? It's all staying inside of these guidelines. Your ear is attached to where this is. And this is where I get some pushback from the furry community. But like, okay, I just did a human ear, but fox ear, right? It comes off of this line. What if it's a rabbit? Same thing. It is dictated by where this is. Horse ear. These are the guidelines that will help you move forward. Feel free to play with shapes. If you can figure out how to do character work early in life, you will be far better in your drawing career than just doing the standard formula. But for now, we're going to stay in our standard formula, right? As I said before, these are guidelines. How broad is the nose? Is it a small nose? Is it a thin nose? Is it a human nose? That dictates how far apart these two wedges are. Once you know that, and again, you can just define how you want, but you should know why you're doing it. We have human. There we go. Human. But that's not what you like to draw. I'm going to pause this right here. Testicles. One, two, three testicles? What? All right, where were we? Ah, yes. Today's beverage is brought to you by Twisted Tea. Hard. Extra hard. Because that's how Art Daddy likes to go. And his flavor is iced tea. No, wait, it's lemonade. Pink bitchy lemonade. Himbo lemonade? Breakover. All right. So let's look at our man whore. And we're just going to kind of cock his head a little bit because that's what he kind of is doing. Maybe I went too much. Maybe I didn't. But here we go. All right. We have our eye line, and we're not drawing humans because that's not what we do here. So we'll just make this guy some sort of canine because we like dogs. Ruff, ruff. But wait, aren't you a cat? Shut your whore mouth. Yeah. Who doesn't like the knots? There we go. TMI. I'm doing things and I'm not helping at all right now. I don't need these ears whatsoever. They do not accomplish anything for us. Great. Nose. Fantastic. Box. Because that's where we are. That's how big we want our nose. If we're going to do a wolf, don't feel like you don't have to come out further than you think you do. Because then what ends up happening, and a lot of my characters did way too long in life, was everybody had about a feline muzzle, no matter whether they were a horse or a dog or an elephant. All right. So we have our nose. We know where our nose is. Well, that makes things easy because this line, it dictates where our jawline is, and then that dictates where the rest of our head is, right? Because there's our jawline, and our jawline dictates a lot of things. So here we go. We got our nose. Bing. The problem with furries is we tend to make everything smile because, well, we have muzzles even though we're not smiling. And how do we get rid of that? Well, we keep playing with it till we get something that we like. No, uh, the this is where again these emotion lines come in. I'm just going to keep this muzzle going down, and why is that? Because just like a human being, right? Here, I'm drawing a nose, right? Just like a human being, we have these things on both sides of our face. Now, whether or not you're old or not, you do, and they dictate where our emotion is. So, if we're angry, these tend to go like so. And when they do that, that's because we're stretching our mouths to yell or be angry. Arrgh. Okay? Those still apply here. And so if you're happy, right? Guess where that line is? It's just the same thing. So, how do we make that work for us? I mean, where are those lines? And conveniently, where those lines are our muzzle lines. So, if he's happy, we can raise this up and give ourselves, this is really horrible, but I'm exaggerating, that this line is that cheek line. All right, I'm exaggerating. So, that's a smile. We don't want him to smile. He's a super soldier. He doesn't smile. We don't like to smile. Not with our super soldiers. Hmm. I don't smile. I'm serious soldier. Very good. And then we're going to have our eyes. Now, again, here's another thing you can do. Your triangle will most likely dictate the size of the entire eye, which makes things easy when it comes to doing your eyes. So now you know exactly where your pupils need to go. And so if this doesn't seem to work, then you're doing something wrong. Top of the eye, which is why we draw the circle, so we know where that is. So that then, oh, is he scared? Is he a scared soldier? I've never handled a gun before. No, so now we need brow lines. Roar, because he's an angry soldier. Roar, look at him, he's angry. And now we have our head, and it doesn't matter because everything else is under the helmet, and we don't get to see it. And we don't care because I'm just sketching and it doesn't matter if it looks horrible. And we'll just put his ears down here because helmets suck. That's why furries don't wear helmets. And yes, why would we put holes in our side of our helmet, the thing that protects our head, with ear holes? Would furries even wear a helmet? Who knows? Furry helmet. There we go. And let's clean up all our sketch lines. Blah, 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 blah. We have our face, and now we can go back in here and we can get rid of all our little triangles because we don't need them anymore, and probably they can go away. Blah, blah, blah. There we go. Great. He seems very concerned, like he doesn't know if his gun is loaded or not. All right, we don't need this going for too much longer. I just wanted you to know why you're doing things, not just because I yelled at you and told you to do them. And I'm not assuming that's the case. But when I see certain sketch things, it I tend to assume because you're still learning, and I want to make sure you learn good. So, great. We have now drawn the head, the hardest part of the body, right? No, it's usually the hands, but okay. So now we have a neck here and it doesn't match. Well, if we can make some adjustment here, right? Like it's a sketch. There's a reason it's a sketch. Now, the reason I kind of said what I said before as far as when you have a finished reference material like this, you can get confused about what is and isn't part of the uniform and what is and is part of the anatomy. And, if you have reference that you are going to refer to, then that's what you're going to do. But if you're going to copy or trace that image, then I would suggest just having it in the entire background, if that's what you're going to do. I am not insinuating that you need to have served in the military to even know how something works. That's not how any of this works. The more reference material you have and or experience, it only helps. And so if you notice, I am not moving too much past my original sketch lines. And so far, I haven't even put a gun in a hand yet. I haven't drawn any part of this gun because we don't need it, right? I mean, we know that there will be a gun. It may not be exactly. I hate hands. We all hate hands. Every artist ever, right? And we're not going to worry about the whole hand. The thumb is going to be behind here, and we're never going to see it. So we're not worried about it. And our bicep, we're never going to see it, so we're not hampered by it. And we're going to turn off all our sketches because we're pretty much past that part, right? Pretty much past that part. We're still kind of sketching. We're still sketching. It's still in a sketch because we're not finished with it and we're nowhere near finishing this. All right, let's do the gun. Here we go. Gun. I like what you did with your blocking. But what you're not doing is maintaining the scale and or um, what it is that you're drawing. So like it's way off. You got the basic idea, and I'm sure you went further with this past what you uploaded. So I'm not killing you over it. Um, but again, why are certain things what they are? Let's go back to the reference material. Is his hand at the top of the rifle? No, it isn't. It's let's see. If we go by this reference material, it's probably that much further up, right? To about where his nose is. There's his hand. I'm probably even really wrong with this as well, and this is how we can change certain things. I know this isn't an AR because if it was an AR in the scale, and see, this is where sketching comes in. If this is an AR in scale of the character, because I know what an AR is, and I've held one, and I know where all the parts are, and I know what everything in here does, and that doesn't mean you can't draw it if you don't know what it does, but it does help you dictate where everything is. So we got our pistol grip, great, and we got our trigger guard, and we are going to have to change some things because we done goofed, right? Whoop. This thing is all wonky. Now we can either obsess over it or we can just make our picture look good. And this is where I am going to be a total hypocrite against everything I just told you because that's my prerogative. I'm better than you. A little bit. Not by much. You're still learning. You're going to beat me one day. Great. And we want to put this stock in his shoulder because that's where it goes. Great. Also, things that will confuse you. You're looking at this and you're like, well, that's really not in his shoulder. This doesn't make any sense. But, like, the fact of the matter is, he's wearing a lot of body armor. And you can't put the rifle in your shoulder. It's going to be kind of pinched in your collarbone. But, like, that really defines things. Maybe he's got a malfunction. I don't know. I'm making excuses at this point as to why mine doesn't look anything like the reference material. Hey, that doesn't have an EOTech. Well, I'm trying to make up the difference. I'm cheating, sir. That's what I'm doing. He didn't draw any squares or circles. Well, remember how I told you before, if you have done it forever, you tend not to. I'm still keeping myself some guidelines, and like I said before, and I will reiterate this: if you are using a computer, let computer do straight lines because I always in my you can look at all my old art. I'll have a picture and then my barrel will kind of like do this, or it'll perspective into the shot and like, but that's not how guns work because then gun is crooked and just let computers do things computers do very well. Good, I have gun. Now, now that we have gun, let's fix our sketch because swatches. We just draw a gun. Here, I'm gonna also show you another thing. This is crazy. Okay, so I drew the gun pretty well, but the gun is in the wrong place. Watch this. See? Boom. Now it's pretty where it was in the picture now. And since we're doing sketches, craziness, craziness. Guess what can happen to a sketch? Oh, now that we have our formula, we can now come in here and right, move things. Move things. I don't like where this hand is. Well, you know what? Computers are cool like that, and without having to erase the whole image like we used to back in the day, we can just move things. Oh, you motherfucker. Meh. There we go. We can move things to where we like them, and then we can go back and fix them so that they are correct. We're still gonna keep our reference, our sketch points because they were fine and there's no reason to change things there. It's just that we moved things. That's all. So now we can just fix that. And now at this point, if you have a pretty good sketch, this is where you can start refining your character. You can be like, okay, well, that's not big enough. That's not big enough. We need to make this a big honka-donkin'. He's a muscle-bound monster. He needs big musculars. He needs to put the musculars on because he is a musculous dog, and we need to bump him up. We need to put the muscles on him so that he is a big muscular dog. There we go. Okay. Great. Now, this is where knowledge comes in, and I can't tell you how to fake the funk on this, and I'm going to be very brief on this, but I'm going to pick a third color here. Uh, this is where, if you don't know what the uniform is or how it goes together, then the only way you're going to be able to know that is if you've handled this equipment or seen pictures of it. Yeah, I can't even, just because he's a thin guy doesn't mean that that's where the cut of the uniform, this is going to drape, right? Is it a cuff? So we're going to put this guy on cuffs because that's just easier to draw. We're going to put cuffs on. He rolled his sleeves because he's a badass. I never got to roll my sleeves. Very good. And he's got gloves. He's got cool gloves. So we're going to do that. I'm going to round out my character. He's going to have finger gloves because he's just awesome. And then he's got knuckle duster, protector, doohickeys. All right, now we're adding details, big knuckle duster protectors on the gloves, finger gloves, because he needs that trigger finger. And I hope I'm not blowing everybody out. Great. He's got the big musculars. And so, boom. And there's a seam line right here. Oh, right there. Very good. Boom. Fantastic. We're going to make this collar even farther out because he's got the big neck. Yes, he does. Boom. And we're not going to see any of that because we're going to add another layer. And we're going to go. Let me give me another color. Let's go brown. Poo brown, dark brown. Because now we're gonna add our body armor. Right? This is where all the big stuff. Now look, we're losing even more definition because of big armor plates with big straps. Look at these big straps that go onto the body armor and they make things really big and puffy. Oh, we just lost our collar because the big puffy straps go on. And then, oh, it's got a cummerbund. So now this cummerbund comes over top of the body armor. Fantastic. And oh, we need magazines. Big magazine pouches go on the front. And these are just squares because that's what they are. Big magazine pouches. I haven't even looked at the reference now because I am just using my experience. And then we got big pouches here for more magazines. And maybe has cool watch because he's a operator guy. and he likes his big watches. Boom. Right. Cool. And then maybe he has a radio, and we're gonna put a name tape here, and his name is Doggo. Doggo the dog. And we're gonna put a radio on his back because he's so cool. He's like in the middle of all the stuff. And maybe he has an earpiece, and then he has one of those little curly Q things, and now we're just hiding him in detail. We're just gonna give him some nods because Ranger Rick, boom. We haven't even done any details because you don't have to. Like I haven't really put any detail into any of this, and it's coming together and with basic shapes and boogers. Uh, we can fix this in the inking process. Boom, dog with gun. Now we would of course come back and clean this all up, and so that we can. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with even putting another layer on here and going back to white and just covering up the stuff that so that things don't get crowded when you try to ink this. A final ink. Once you've got all your sketches down, there's nothing wrong with coming back and at the highest point, just going in and covering up what isn't important so that you don't get confused about what everything is. Because you can get, there's just so much going on. Was this a watch? Why was this here? Which line was I supposed to pay attention to? Wait, he's got pockets. He doesn't, you don't need to see these muscles. They're not even there anymore. You can't even see them. Well, I drew these pockets in the sketch, but you can't physically. Oh, look, I drew these collars, but they're underneath the. There, like literally all that collar work that I did. Yeah, you can barely even make it out. It doesn't exist. And that's cool. You could have probably just left it out from the beginning, but you need to know they're there. You need to know that that's where it is so that you don't accidentally look, we do have some collar left, which defines where the collarbone is and then helps the viewer understand that he's wearing some body armor. Ta-da! I know this is not what we started doing, but hopefully this helps you figure out what you're doing as you go. And there's so much wrong with even this image. I'm not trying to make you copy what your reference material is, but as with most things, using your reference material to come up with something original and fun that is your art and not a copy of something else. Yes, you want to copy as many things as you can so that you learn from them, but at the same time, you want to make them your own. So I hope that helps. Till next time.